Imagine for a moment that you are looking at a photograph of your great-grandparents. It's a physical object, sepia-toned, perhaps a bit frayed at the edges, but it's there. You can touch it. It has survived a century of heat, cold, and neglect. Now think about the last photo you took on your smartphone. Where will that photo be in 100 years? We live in the most documented era in human history, yet we are standing on the precipice of what historians call the digital dark age. Every single day, an invisible crisis is unfolding inside the pristine, air-conditioned halls of global data centers. It's a crisis of rot. Digital storage, the very foundation of our modern civilization, is failing. You see, we've been sold a lie. We were told the cloud is a permanent ethereal place where our memories, our bank records, and our collective scientific breakthroughs live forever. But the cloud isn't a cloud. It's a series of massive warehouses filled with spinning magnetic hard drives and plastic tapes. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Those hard drives are designed to die. Inside a data center, the click of death is a constant soundtrack. Hard drives have a lifespan of about 3 to 5 years. Solid-state drives aren't much better. They are susceptible to magnetic interference, heat, and bit rot, the spontaneous flipping of a 1 to a 0. If you leave a hard drive on a shelf for a decade, there is a very high probability that when you plug it back in, your data will be gone. This is the silent failure. Nearly all human knowledge, from the formula for life-saving vaccines to your child's first steps now, exists on hardware designed to degrade within years, not centuries. We are building a skyscraper of information on a foundation of melting ice. We have mistaken access for preservation. The value of what we store is permanent, but the media we use is temporary by design. Think about your own life. Have you ever lost a phone and realized you didn't back up your photos? That gut punch feeling of losing a year of memories is what humanity is facing on a civilizational scale. We are currently losing the battle against time, and we don't even realize it because the industry just keeps replacing the dying parts. But how long can we keep that up? To understand the scale of this problem, we have to look at what we are actually storing. Not all data is created equal. In the tech world, we distinguish between hot data and cold data. Hot data is what you're using right now. Your social media feed, your current emails, the video you're streaming. It needs to be fast, but cold data is the silent giant. Cold data is information that is rarely accessed but absolutely critical if lost. It's medical records from 10 years ago. It's the raw footage of a classic movie. It's legal contracts, architectural blueprints, and climate data. Roughly 60 to 80% of all stored information on Earth is cold data. It's just sitting there. And here is the paradox. To keep this unchanged data alive, we have to keep it in a state of constant motion. Because the hardware is so fragile. Organizations are forced into a ritual called data migration. Every few years, engineers have to copy petabytes of data from old drives onto brand new ones before the old ones fail. Imagine if every 5 years, you had to rewrite every book in a library by hand into a new book just to keep the words from fading. That is exactly what we are doing with the internet. This cycle is an environmental and economic nightmare. It consumes staggering amounts of electricity to keep the drive spinning and the rooms cool. It requires the constant mining of rare earth minerals to build new hardware that we know will be trash in 60 months. At the scale our data is growing, projected to reach 175 zettabytes by 2025, this migration model is fundamentally unsustainable. We are running out of energy and materials just to stay in the same place. We are pedaling a bicycle faster and faster just to keep the lights on, but the chain is about to snap. When a system is broken at its foundation, you don't fix it by making better versions of the old tools. You don't make a faster horse. You build an engine. Researchers realized that the problem wasn't the software or the lasers, it was the chemistry. To store data for the long term, we had to move away from magnetism and electricity. We had to return to the physical. Enter glass. Specifically, fused silica. This isn't the glass in your drinking tumbler or your window pane. Fused silica is an ultra-pure material, capable of withstanding extreme temperatures and chemical erosion. Scientists began to ask, what if we stopped trying to store data as states, on or off, magnetic north or south, and started storing it as physical structures? This reframes the entire problem. Data storage is no longer a computing problem. It's a material science problem. If you engrave a message into a stone tablet, it stays there until the stone erodes. If you can engrave data into the internal structure of glass, you create a medium that requires no power to maintain. Imagine a slab of glass the size of a coaster. It doesn't need a battery. It doesn't need a cooling fan. It doesn't care if there's a power outage or a solar flare. It just sits there, holding information in a frozen, physical state. This is the promise of the eternal archive. It's the shift from a living, breathing, dying system to a permanent, static monument. Innovation rarely happens in a vacuum. Usually when a technology's time has come, multiple people realize it at once. Right now, we are seeing a fascinating convergence. On one side, you have a small, agile UK startup called Phonox, which spun out of the University of Southampton, the same place where the pioneers of optical fiber worked. On the other side, you have Microsoft, a trillion-dollar titan with almost infinite resources. Both of these entities, independently of each other, arrived at the same conclusion: glass is the only way forward. This convergence is a massive signal to the market. When a scrappy academic startup and a corporate behemoth with opposite incentives and business models both bet on the same horse, it means the old paradigm, the era of magnetic storage, is officially dead. They aren't just trying to make a better product. They are responding to a breakdown in the laws of scaling. They both realize that if we want to survive the data explosion, we have to stop using active media for passive storage. This tension between the startup and the giant creates a beautiful competition. Phonox is focusing on the pure physics of permanence. How long can we make this last? Microsoft is focusing on the ecosystem. How do we plug this into the global cloud? But both are moving toward a world where data is etched in stone, or rather in silica. Let's look closer at the startup's approach. Phonox isn't just putting dots in glass. They are using something called 5-dimensional, 5D data encoding. Now don't let the 5D term scare you, it's not science fiction. It's geometry. When they use an ultra-fast femtosecond laser to write data into the glass, they aren't just marking a spot. They are creating a tiny structure called a voxel. The 5 dimensions include the 3 spatial dimensions, where the dot is in the glass, but also 2 extra variables: the orientation of the nanostructure and its size. This allows them to pack an incredible amount of data into a tiny space. Phonox's philosophy is one of unapologetic slowness. In our world of 5G and instant downloads, being slow sounds like a failure. But for Phonox, it's a deliberate trade-off. It takes a long time to write data with this level of precision, but once it's written, it is virtually indestructible. They are redefining what archival means. To Phonox, archival doesn't mean stored for 10 years. It means stored until the sun burns out, for data that must survive. Centuries, national constitutions, the human genome, the blueprints for our civilizations, the speed of the laser is irrelevant. What matters is certainty. They are building a digital seed vault, not for plants, but for ideas. Whenever a company claims their product will last 1 billion years, you should be skeptical. Usually that's marketing fluff. But with fused silica, the claim is grounded in the laws of thermodynamics. Electronic storage fails because electrons move. Magnetic storage fails because magnetic fields weaken over time. But fused silica has no internal decay mechanism. It is chemically inert. To prove this, researchers haven't just waited around. They've used accelerated aging tests. They bake the glass in high-temperature ovens to simulate the passage of thousands of years. They've subjected it to fire, submerged it in boiling water, and even blasted it with radiation that would fry any normal computer chip. The data remained intact. In one of the most famous examples, a version of this technology was used to create a copy of Isaac Asimov's Foundation trilogy, which was then sent into space aboard Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster. It is currently orbiting the sun, exposed to the harshest environment known to man. It will likely still be readable long after the car itself has been sandblasted into dust by cosmic particles. This isn't speculative science. This is the transition from volatile memory to permanent record. We are finally creating a medium that is as durable as the information is valuable. While Phonox is pushing the limits of the material, Microsoft is thinking about the factory. Microsoft's Project Silica isn't just about the glass. It's about the system. They realize that if you want a data center to use glass, you can't just have a scientist with a laser in a lab. You need a fully automated ecosystem. Microsoft has designed a system where passive shelves hold thousands of these glass plates. There's no power running to the shelves. They just sit there in the dark. When a customer needs to read their data, A robot, not a human, zips through the aisles, grabs the specific piece of glass and brings it to a high-speed optical reader. The reader uses computer vision and AI to decode the light passing through the glass, turning those physical structures back into bits and bytes. This is a complete reimagining of the cloud. Instead of millions of hard drives constantly spinning and generating heat, you have a silent, cold library. It's reliable, it's secure, and it integrates seamlessly into the existing Azure cloud infrastructure. Microsoft isn't promising a billion years. They are promising a more efficient, cheaper, and unhackable way to store the world's cold archives. The implications of this shift go far beyond just saving files. There are two massive second-order effects: security and sustainability. First, let's talk about security. In our connected world, everything is vulnerable to ransomware. If a hacker gets into a server, they can encrypt your backups and hold them hostage. But glass storage is air-gapped by nature. When a piece of glass is sitting on a shelf, it is not connected to the internet. It cannot be hacked. It cannot be deleted by a virus. It is an immutable physical record. To destroy it, you would have to physically walk into the building and break the glass. Second, let's talk about energy. We are currently in an energy crisis, and data centers are some of the biggest consumers of power on the planet. By switching to glass, we eliminate the need for migration. We stop the endless cycle of copying and replacing hardware. Once the data is written to glass, the energy cost drops to near zero. You don't need to cool the room. You don't need to power the disk. You just leave it there. This breaks the most expensive and environmentally damaging practice in the tech industry. It allows us to keep our history without burning our future. Now, I have to be honest with you. This technology is not perfect. There is no such thing as a free lunch in physics. The trade-off for this permanence is speed. You will never play a high-end video game off a piece of glass. You won't use it to run your operating system. The process of using a laser to change the molecular structure of glass is slow and energy-intensive during the writing phase. Reading the data is also slower than an SSD because you have to physically move the glass to a reader. But this isn't a flaw. It's a definition. Glass is not a replacement for your hard drive. It's a replacement for tape and for the disposable culture of data. In our modern world, we've become obsessed with fast. We want everything instantly. But some things shouldn't be fast. Some things should be stable. By accepting this trade-off, we are admitting that while some data is for now, the most important data is for forever. Glass forces us to categorize our knowledge. What do we need for today? And what do we want the people of the year 3000 to know about us? So, who wins this race? Is it the startup Phonox or the giant Microsoft? The truth is, it doesn't matter who wins in the corporate sense. This isn't a zero-sum game. The startup will likely provide the specialized, ultra-long-term storage for governments and museums, the civilizational layer. Microsoft will likely provide the industrial layer, managing the massive archives of global corporations. The real winner is humanity. For the first time since we moved away from stone tablets and parchment, we finally have a medium that is aligned with civilizational timeframes. We are moving out of the digital dark age and into an era of digital permanence. But there's a deeper lesson here for all of us. This shift from temporary and fast to permanent and slow is a metaphor for how we live our lives. We spend so much time focusing on the hot data of our lives, the temporary stressors, the fleeting social media trends, the now. But we often neglect the cold data, our long-term health, our deep relationships, our legacy. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the future of memory. I wish you all great health, both physical and digital. If you found this story thought-provoking, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell. It helps us keep telling stories that matter. Until next time,